finally, the T in CCEDIT. T stands for teamwork. The initial definition I got was not teamwork. It actually was teamwork slash interpersonal skills. And actually started with interpersonal skills. I put teamwork first. So anyway, the definition: promote personal effectiveness when interacting with others, whether the interaction is one-on-one, in a small group, in an organization, or with an audience. To be skilled interpersonally, a person must first assess any situation to determine the expectations of others involved and then adapt to those expectations. Again, we're talking about teamwork. I've had facilitation and team building exercise training and all kinds of fun stuff, so I paraphrase it into successful teamwork is basically following the 4 stages of any team. If you're not familiar with this, you might want to look it up. Team building, team phases, team cycles, regardless, it's 4 stages any team goes through, and it is basically forming, and we'll go through it. I tend to do it out of order, but anyway, forming, storming, norming, and performing. Okay, so I changed the definitions and I changed the order from what most people teach as the way the 4 stages work. But it's basically forming, which is everyone's just getting to learn each other's names, where do they sit, where are their materials, what kind of resources are at their disposal. Forming, they're forming the team. After you make it through the forming stage, which is kind of turbulent, I consider a translation or transition from that into storming, which is sometimes a part of forming, but for me anyway, most often what happens is after that initial period and people become kind of fired up about their cause, then you see some of this storming, which is basically bickering and arguing and sometimes quite heatedly discussing topics. That's a good sign. You want that. You want to encourage moving into this stage as quickly as possible, sometimes more than once, so as often as possible as well. Basically what it means is everybody cares. One of my clients in computing one time was laying in the hospital in critical care, and his doctors, all 3 of them, were standing at the foot of his bed arguing over what was wrong with him, which, granted, it was storming. They all cared. It proved how much they cared and how impassioned they were. But honestly, he said the same thing I did. Couldn't they have done that somewhere else other than at the foot of his bed? So in any case, storming is a natural part of forming any team, and it leads into the turbulent waters eventually smooth out and become what I call norming. And the way I define norming is what happens is you become stagnant. And it's basically you've reached the point where you know where your desk is, you know what your tasks are. It happens in every job that everybody gets. You get a new job, it's interesting at first, moves on. Sometimes there's, disagreeing about particular duties and things like that. But then you move into this point where you're pretty much just showing up and doing your job. And what happens there is usually complacency sets in. And that can be actually quite a distraction. And it can actually be detrimental. So regardless, complacency in and of itself can lead to really bad results. So one of the things you want to do is shake that up, and that's actually how we get back into storming again sometimes. And then the last stage actually would be performing. And performing means that you're excelling. You're actually accomplishing more than you were asked in the first place. One good definition of teamwork that I had come across is synergy. And when you're performing, you've truly reached a point of synergy or synergizing. Synergizing or synergy is literally by definition, the sum of the parts are greater, or excuse me, I can't think of it. The effect is greater than the sum of the parts. That's it. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Jeez. Regardless, That's based on a concept of taking two lengths of wood, same kind of wood, same length, same thickness. Each one, say, can hold 50 pounds. So you take two of them, put them together, you would think naturally they hold 100 pounds. Well, through the synergistic effect, they actually hold more than 150 pounds. I'm sure there's a formula out there somewhere for figuring this. Given any material X with strength B, you will get a synergistic effect of Y. Regardless, there's got to be something out there that explains this. But when it comes to human beings, okay, with pieces of wood, you can probably accurately predict, and pieces of metal probably even more accurately predict the synergistic effect. With human beings, you just don't know. When you get any two or more human beings together, the synergistic effect is absolutely unpredictable. It can go anywhere, and it can be amazing. So getting people to the performing stage of any team, to me, is most important. So forming, storming, norming, and performing. Honestly, teamwork is used as a test. It can tell you whether or not you are accurately or effectively using the other 5 core values. So aside from doing the team building itself, the ability to perform, to reach that stage of performing in a team, requires communications, critical thinking, ethics, diversity, inquiry, and of course teamwork. And now finally we get into the 7th, or the final core value, that actually negates the other 6. This is the core value I was living with and living behind and through and in all ways long before I ran into that job. And it's pure and simple. Here's my favorite quote: "Karma is dead, personal responsibility is alive and well." So what we're getting at here is personal responsibility. If you follow this, you eliminate the need for the other 6. It's simple. Take responsibility for yourself in all ways. Your life, everything good and bad that happens to you, your actions, abuse all or none, comes from an anecdote that I got from one of my mentors, Dan Millman, who explained that there was a gentleman who would go home at night and beat his wife, and he came to Dan for advice, and he said, interesting, do you ever get upset with other people, like your boss? Oh yeah, all the time, is the answer the guy gave. So your wife makes you upset and you beat her. Your boss makes you upset, do you beat him? The answer is no. So if you only beat her and nobody else, then you should stop because you can obviously control yourself around others. Why can't you control yourself around her? There's no reason for abuse to not incorporate everyone. So abuse all or none. Consequences: accept your missteps, failures, growth opportunities. Wholeheartedly receive the effects, good, bad, or indifferent, of every action you take. And live CCEDIT. You won't need to spend hours trying to figure them out if you simply take responsibility for yourself and all your actions and everything that happens in your life. Take responsibility for your ability to communicate, critical thinking, which is where we first mentioned responsibility, ethics, diversity, inquiry, and of course teamwork. Thank you so much for your time and attention. This concludes the CCEDIT core values for any business, and we hope that you visit lunchlesson.com and apprentical.org and continue your learning in approximately 15 minutes. Thank you.